On August 26, massive flash floods and landslides suddenly engulfed a narrow ravine on the China-Nepal border, obliterating infrastructure in a matter of seconds.
Oh my God!
Gyirong port serves as Tibet's primary foreign trade checkpoint, handling the vast majority of all overland commerce between China and Nepal. Connecting Kathmandu to this critical Chinese trade hub is a single, highly vulnerable lifeline, the Arnico Highway. There was absolutely no warning, just crushing masses of water and debris surging through the valleys, swallowing towns, roads, and vital infrastructure downstream. The devastating human toll. Right now, authorities have confirmed a staggering 165 fatalities. That's 157 bodies recovered in Nepal and 3 reported dead over in Tibet. And, local police and emergency crews, they are just working around the clock. They aren't just recovering victims, they're frantically trying to evacuate surviving families from these flood risk zones and get them to higher ground because the whole environment is still incredibly unstable. Tragically, the numbers don't stop there. Over 1,000 people are still reported missing. 1,000. Emergency personnel are digging through the rubble, but entire villages and bustling riverside markets, they were basically wiped out in an instant. Plus, with communications completely knocked out in these remote mountainous areas, families are stuck in an agonizing limbo, just waiting for any word on their loved ones. What's really crucial to understand here is that this isn't just a local crisis. It is a massive international tragedy. The missing include hundreds of foreign tourists and Hindu and Buddhist pilgrims who are making their way to the highly revered Mount Kailash. We're talking about nationals from India, the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, the list goes on. Reports are actually showing over 170 Indian nationals plus dozens of Americans and Australians who are completely out of contact. It's a massive multinational crisis unfolding in literally one of the most rugged, unforgiving environments on Earth. So, how do you even begin to respond to something of this scale? Well, we're seeing this incredible synchronized cross-border mobilization. On the Nepalese side, you've got over 5,000 military and police personnel taking to the skies. Because so many areas are entirely cut off by destroyed roads, they're heavily relying on helicopter rescue missions to pluck survivors to safety while simultaneously dropping essential aid like blankets, first aid kits, and food. Meanwhile, nearly 800 Chinese emergency workers are tackling the ground and water. They've deployed speedboats to navigate the massive floods, and they're using sniffer dogs alongside 150 vehicles to search through the debris. It is a monumental coordinated push to save as many lives as possible. But there is a macro-level economic paralysis happening here that's going to outlast the immediate floods. The massive landslide entirely obliterated the Gyirong port checkpoint. Now this isn't just any checkpoint. This is Tibet's main foreign trade gateway, handling the vast majority of commerce with Nepal. Verified footage circulating online shows the sheer finality of this destruction in literally seconds. A landslide descended on the port, while people scrambled to flee and then mud and debris completely swallowed it. An entire economic hub just gone in a flash. When you look at the geography of this border region, specifically vital logistical routes like the Arno Highway, you see how they snake through incredibly steep, precarious terrain. This whole area is a vital artery for Transima trade. So when the roads cutting through these mountains fail, everything stops. The goods stop, the trucks get stranded, and the absolute economic lifeline between these two countries is effectively severed. And it's really a domino effect of economic ruin. The other major border gateway at Tatapani had already been closed for weeks due to previous landslides along the Arnico Highway. So, compound that with this new destruction of Gyirong port, you're looking at billions in trade revenues suddenly halted. Hundreds of cargo containers were already sitting there stranded from the earlier closures, and now businesses are taking massive losses as perishable goods simply spoil. On top of that, multiple hydropower projects along the Bodekoshi River have been heavily damaged or washed away entirely, leaving riverside camps full of workers completely cut off. How in the world will these isolated, devastated communities recover when their lifelines, Both their physical roads and their main economic trade gateways have been completely wiped off the map. The immediate rescue phase we're seeing right now is absolutely critical. But the economic and infrastructural rebuilding, that's going to take years, and it's going to require immense resilience and regional cooperation. The sheer scale and speed of this devastation point to an enormous localized release of energy. Right as the flood struck, global seismometers picked up a 5.2 magnitude tremor originating from the exact same location. Looking at these dense, jagged inclines, the initial conclusion from officials and the media was that a tectonic earthquake had triggered a deadly landslide. But when the United States Geological Survey reviewed the event, they looked specifically at the long-period seismic waves. The specific signature of those waves did not align with the friction of tectonic plates slipping against one another. If no tectonic fault had ruptured, something else had to generate enough localized kinetic force to register 5.2 on the Richter scale. By assuming an earthquake was the culprit, authorities initially missed an entirely different type of seismic threat looming overhead. To find the actual trigger, geomorphologists shifted their focus to orbit and analyzing satellite imagery from the 24 hours surrounding the disaster. The visual evidence isolated the anomaly high up the steep valley walls at an elevation of 5,200 meters. The satellite photo showed that an entire section of a mountain glacier had simply vanished overnight. This 3D visualization shows a massive 0.2 kilometers block of ice breaking from the mountain. It plummets 1.2 kilometers vertically into the valley below. Upon impact, the ice transfers its kinetic into the ground, generating the seismic equivalent of a 5.2 magnitude earthquake. The tremors recorded by global monitors were not tectonic plates grinding. They were the vibrations of a mountain shattering from a sheer physical impact. This raises an obvious question. Why did hundreds of thousands of tons of ice suddenly fall if the ground wasn't shaking? High altitudes, steep slopes, and glaciers are held together by mountain permafrost, which acts as a deep structural glue. Currently, the Himalayas are warming twice as fast as the global average, placing the entire region under extreme thermal stress. In the 24 hours before the collapse, rapid unseasonable melting penetrated deeply, turning the frozen rock into liquid water. Without that frozen friction to anchor it, the massive block of ice detached from the slope, leaving nothing to hold it in place against gravity. When that block hit the valley floor, the KAG impact generated immense heat, instantly melting a vast portion of the fallen ice. This sudden deluge of liquid water violently mixed with pulverized rock and sediment from the crash. The resulting debris flow surged rapidly downhill, channeling directly into the Lendakola tributary. As it moved, the flow bulked up, dragging massive boulders and thick sediment into the main artery of the Bayoshi River. Along that path, the surge physically destroyed at least 2 operating hydroelectric schemes. A glacial collapse high in the mountains weaponizes the entire downstream hydrological system. The initial impact is only the starting point for a flood that multiplies. This event carries severe infrastructural implications for the vital trade corridors between China and Nepal. Current risk models and engineering designs in this region are built to withstand rain-induced landslides and tectonic earthquakes. The physics of the August 26th collapse bypasses those safeguards entirely, rendering older development models dangerously obsolete. As the high-altitude permafrost thaws, gravity and ice now function as primary seismic threats, capable of striking without any tectonic warning. Humanity is being forced to rebuild its relationship with these mountains as the ground itself comes untethered. In the face of this sudden tragedy, the true strength of these mountain communities has shone through the darkness. As thousands of brave rescue workers, soldiers, and local volunteers work side by side to reach survivors and bring aid to those in need, they carry the hope of entire nations. Every hand reached out to help is a testament to an unshakable human spirit. As these valleys begin the long journey of recovery, they do not stand alone. Together, through shared courage and a boundary-defying bond, they will heal and rebuild a safer, brighter future. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack the far-reaching impacts of this tragedy, and definitely keep this critical context in mind as we watch the recovery efforts unfold.